Once upon a time,
in a land far away.
I'm Katrina.
And I'm Jeff.
This is the Fairy Tellers Podcast.
Myth, legend, folklore, fable.
We explore what they say about cultures then and now,
Grab a hot cup of cocoa and a comfy seat
while we tell you a tale.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have, you guessed it, another exciting episode.
Yay! And we know it's been about a month. It's been even longer since Jeff and I recorded with each other.
Which is why I know it's going to be an exciting episode, because the bar is so low. Like, any episode at this point is exciting that something is going out.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
That it's like, oh, yay, it happened. It happened again. They are continuing to podcast. Especially there was that one hiatus that we took one time that I think it was like 3 or 4 months, something like that. When again, it was like, I think a situation where I was like in the middle of moving and nonsense. So.
Yeah. And it's just like they say in Jurassic Park. Life finds a way to get in the way of your life.
That's exactly the quote Jeff Goldblum famously said.
Yep. Every word for word, verbatim.
Don't look it up and then write me a rude review. They don't know anything about Jurassic Park.
Which would be a huge problem if this were a Jurassic Park podcast. But,
yeah.
We've claimed to be many things, but Jurassic Park podcast, as of yet, not something that we have claimed to be.
Yeah. Absolutely come for us on our animal husbandry, though.
Yeah, if we get our animal husbandry wrong, we deserve the 1-star review.
Yeah, because we have claimed to be an animal husbandry podcast. But yeah, Jeff and I, we kind of made sure at the beginning of the summer to record several episodes because we were hoping that that would be enough to tide us over. But it was not, because, and this is true, life was crazy. But one thing that Jeff and I did find time for was seeing each other.
Yeah.
And more importantly, me seeing Jeff's wife.
Yes, that's true.
That was the most important thing to me. And also, even more importantly, no, not more important than seeing your wife, but slightly less important than seeing your wife.
In
but
between,
more important
than seeing me, less important than seeing my wife is.
We got to meet up at the Shiny Hiney and touch the Mothman. We went to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And by we went to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, I mean, Jeff messaged me and told me that the route that he was taking for a summer road trip was actually going to put him going through.
Yeah, like just completely coincidentally. Oh,
yeah, because you were in a different place than you normally start from.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is 2 hours, 2.5, something like that, 3 hours, something out of my way and out of state, but worth it. Absolutely worth it.
Yeah, it was cool. It was like the statue is cool. It's like really cool, I would say. Worth the trip. And then like the museum was actually like fun and like worth it in like a different way.
Yes. I was going to say we were with the right people to appreciate it. And by the right people, I mean you and me and your wife. Because we were very much like enjoying it, both equal parts, like goofing on aspects of it. Like, for instance, there is like a display inside of the Mothman Museum area that's kind of dedicated to the movie The Prophecy. And that was the part that we were like kind of goofing on, because they were like, this blanket came in contact with like these famous people in such and such a scene.
Like that's literally what it said.
Yeah, but when I read it out loud, Jeff thought that I was joking. Yeah. He thought I was doing a bit.
Yeah, I thought she was joking because like we were looking at some of the, there was more than one prop.
Yeah, because it was like this is one of 3 paint cans that were used in such and such a scene in The Prophecy. Yeah.
Like I'm looking at the picture right now that I took of it. It's like it's a can. It looks kind of like a Sherwin-Williams can, but it's obviously like a movie prop where it's just like it just says paint, like where the company name would be.
Yeah. Paint brand paint.
And like the little plaque, which is the plaque next to it, which is you can clearly see like a just printed out piece of paper from Word, Microsoft Word in like a little plastic standee. One of the 3 paint cans carried out of the paint store by Will Patton. And when Richard Gere talked to him on the sidewalk, it's like, what? No way. How did you get one of the 3 paint cans?
That was in a scene with Richard Gere. Is that how you say his name?
Uh-huh. And then the blanket. Like I was joking about that, and like I was kind of riffing on that, similar to how I just was. And then Katrina was like, said her thing, and
this blanket came in contact.
The blanket that came in contact with both Richard Gere and Deborah Messing in the motel scenes from the movie The Mothman Prophecies.
Yeah, and all I had done was just read directly off of the black, and he thought that I was like, I thought it was a
hilarious joke, and then it was even more hilarious that it was true.
Yeah,
like it came in contact with them. It's just like the wording of it too.
Yeah, but also like in that museum were like articles that were in the local newspaper with people having sightings of the Mothman. And then also when the bridge collapse happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that was really interesting because it was like you had all of these like primary sources.
Yeah.
Of like the people who had like witnessed it, talking about it and the experience. And so like that was really interesting. So it's like, yes, the parts where I was like, what in the world with the movie, like the prophecy, but there were like the museum had a lot of stuff in it, way more stuff than I thought was going to be in it.
Oh yeah. And it was like, again, well worth the admission. There was one room of the museum that it's like, they're just playing like a full length documentary about like the story of like the Mothman and like the bridge collapse and all that stuff. So it's like, you can go and sit in there and watch that. Or go and look at the different things. And there's like one section that has a lot of like the memorabilia from different, like, like with Mothman appearing in like comic books or like different art that's been done, which is like, there's some really, really cool, like Mothman art. And then, attached to the museum is like the gift store / just store. There's like so much cool Mothman like merch.
Which one thing that's so interesting about like the display that's in the back of all of this merch that has been made surrounding the Mothman, like basically since the 60s. I mean, the merch probably came after that, but you can see different like things that were made around like to be sold like off of kind of Mothman mania, like anybody who's interested in like Mothman. And then it is like, and then also in the store, you've got like the contemporary art, like the art still continues, like this folklore continues to beget more folklore. And then also in the back, they had different Mothman inspired works of art that also are very reflective of the time period that they were made. Like velvet canvases. There's not a whole lot of art that gets made on like velvet canvas anymore, but that was very much like, part of that time. And so it's just interesting to like look at how this like mysterious entity that you could say, it hasn't even been around or in the consciousness of people for even 100 years. And it's like, no, it's this already has like morphed and changed throughout time of like the different descriptions and how then people are creating that in art and how that art then informs how other people think that the Mothman looks. And it was funny because my daughter, one of the like souvenirs that I brought back, which was like a patch to like sew onto this bag that I have that's kind of my like folklore bag. She looked at this patch and she was like, oh, is that what the Mothman looks like? And I was like, it's an idea of what Mothman looks like. Because the Mothman that I have on my bag does not look anything like the shiny hiney Mothman. Because different artists put the wings in different places versus like the head. I like, personally, this is just me. Nobody at me. Just kidding. Absolutely, please at me. The Mothman that I like is a Mothman where like its head is almost indistinguishable from like its shoulders. Where like
very moth-like,
where it's like, no, the eyes are low, like instead of man-like, where it's got like the head of a man.
Yeah.
I like my Mothman more mothy than man.
Yeah. And that's, that's a dividing line in the community, You like your Mothman, and some people like their Mothman.
Yeah.
I'm a Mothman man myself.
That's so interesting.
But also interesting, I listened to our, like my kids were asking, like, why are we going to go see Mothman? And I was like, let me tell you. And I started like trying to tell him like the story. And he's like, you know what?
Yeah,
I've already told this story better when I had like more freshly researched it. Let me just pull up the episode of our podcast. And we listened to it and like timed it perfectly. Like I just happened to put it on. And it was like when we were finishing the episode, it was like 5 minutes later, we were like at the Mothman statue, which was cool.
That is.
Which was at that was on the way back. Sorry. On the way back, like from there, I was getting my kids and we were driving back. And so like we took them and, I got to listen to the story again, which was cool after having already been to the museum and like seen all the stuff and like had Mothman like refreshed in my brain that way. And then getting to hear like me telling the story. I don't know. It was just interesting.
Yeah. Dude, what episode was that? I feel like that was one of our like earlier, like our first year of podcasting, especially because, and this is true, the person who does our music, Andrew Forey, which he said, call me Andy Forey because he's like, nobody calls me Andrew, which, interesting. But he does our music. He's obsessed with cryptids and also like aliens. I don't think of aliens as cryptids. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but Mothman might be an alien.
Oh, you know what? There is that.
So, I mean,
something to think about for sure. And man, it's so interesting because I used to be obsessed with cryptids, like especially when I lived in Louisiana as a kid. I got obsessed with ghosts, and then I got obsessed with cryptids of all kinds. I blame the fact that I drove past a known haunted house every day on my bus ride to school, and the fact that my mom was watching Unsolved Mysteries nonstop. Those two things I think kind of solidified that I was like, oh, ghosts and aliens and cryptids. And then slowly as I got older, my interest in cryptids started to fade. And that's a sad thing, as you get older and the magic starts to fade from life. So put cryptids back in your life, people. Bring the magic back.
And you can start by listening to episode 80 of the Fairy Tellers podcast, Mothman and Other American Cryptids.
Did you say 80?
80 from November 2022.
Oh my goodness. That feels
more recent than you thought. Huh?
Yeah, it's a lot more recent than I thought. I was like, I think we did that in the first year that we were no, not even a little bit. Wow. Time marches on.
But
death comes for us all.
Yes, that's true. So anyway, what are we talking about today, Katrina?
Oh my gosh. Yes, of course. Today is going to be super fun. And I know you already said it's going to be.
I said it was going to be exciting, but I never said it was going to be fun. Some of our episodes are funner than others. Some of them are only kind of serious.
Yeah.
And then the rest are just a silly, slappy good time.
That's so true. It's going to be a silly, slappy good time. I can feel it in my bones that this is going to be just a silly, slappy good time because today we're going to be telling some fun stories. I don't know what I'm going to be titling this episode. You'll know because if you're listening to this, I will have already titled it. But I'm thinking something along the lines of Eat the Rich. Just kidding. Maybe I'm joking because during the month of July, Tish Black, who is the author of Ebony, Blood, and Snow, New Stories from Old Tales, she had a challenge on her Instagram to read a fairy tale every day throughout the month of July. And I was so glad that she invited others to join in with her and show the fairy tales that they were reading because it was a good time. And it really gave me something to look forward to because during that month, I also found out that the place that I was moving into had a potential leak in the roof that was going to need to get fixed before we can move in, and a crack in the foundation that was causing a mold issue. And so we had to stall in the middle of our move and kind of like adjust everything. And so it was super stressful and no fun time for me. It was messed up, a good chunk of my summer. So it was really great to have something to kind of take my mind off of things that was challenging me to just read a little bit. It was not that taxing of a challenge. Well, I guess depending on what I was reading, because some of the fairy tales that I was reading, I was like, oh, let me read more from like the salon tales. And those are like those are longer. But then I was like, okay, what books do I still have physically available to me that I can pull out? Because because I had packed up most of my boxes, but I couldn't move in to unpack my books, I only had a very select amount of books to draw from, like to read. And so I was using archive.org and also books that I had like on my phone via like a Kindle app. I have the Libby, if anybody is into borrowing books from the library so they can electronically read them, that is me. So if anybody has Libby, we're library pals and buddies. So I kind of had this like limited amount of books to read from, but I was trying to read something every day and then post about it on my Instagram. It was a little hit or miss of whether I got it done, mostly because if it was a day where I was sitting around waiting for like a repair person to like come into the house so that I could unlock it for them and have them go in and assess more of the issues. So it was kind of hit or miss whether I was like doing it or not, but I did most of the days. And what was weird was I was kind of selecting them at random, being like, okay, what stories haven't I read? What sounds like a fun story or something that like I haven't had the opportunity to read? And I kept accidentally reading books that are reading tales that seem to have a theme of hating rich people. Which, yeah, I was like, this hilarious. Absolutely hilarious that this keeps happening. And it was happening in stories from kind of like all over the world too, which I loved. And so I thought this episode today to be fun and light before we kind of get into like a heavier topic, because I have still been researching for another episode to do on Spectres of the Marvelous, which again delves into racism within the tales. Those are more serious topics that like deserve to have us be less silly, slappy fun times.
And I was going to say it.
Yeah. More like still keep things light when I'm retelling the tale and like making fun of the funnier bits, but then, you know, obviously not downplaying the seriousness of like racism and the world that was like, you know, creating the story or the cultures that were creating those stories. But yeah, definitely less fun, silly, slappy fun times. But when it comes to episodes where I can retell a story where demons are torturing rich people, I mean, of course, I'm going to choose that one. Like, of course, that's, you know, what we're going to aim for when we kind of just want to get back into the swing of things. So the first story that I am going to be retelling today is found in a book of ghosts and goblins, compiled by Ruth Manning Sanders. And her collection of tales, they are fantastic and they cover so many subjects. I think we've used her. We used her for, I want to say, a witch episode and then also a mermaid episode this year. So she's been a fan favorite. And by a fan favorite, I mean a me favorite. I'm the fan. I'm the fan of her. No, they're always just a lot of fun, the stories that she selects, and they're usually from all over the place. And so I was kind of enjoying her, especially because you can find, I think, nearly all of her books on archive.org. And again, I was working with like limited books at the time. And so, yeah, she was really, really coming in clutch for me. So anyway, the story I'm going to be retelling is called Bring Me a Light. So there was once a poor widow. Of course, we always have to have a poor widow who had 7 little boys, which is, oof.
Dang.
Rough. I hate that journey for her. But this poor widow, she couldn't pay her rent. Landlord turned her out of her cottage. And so she was kind of just wandering through the world with her like 7 boys with her. And I love, it's like the story starts off with, you know, an evil landlord. Can we call him an evil landlord? Landlords, you know, people, it's like, oh, they have to make money too. Yeah, I guess. But also this poor woman. But anyway. Oh, and I forgot to say, this story comes from Spain. which is important because we've talked a little bit in the past about how stories like in Ireland, there's usually like an evil landlord. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure I said like this story is actually from Spain. So there are landlords who are turning out poor widows all over the place.
Yeah. All over the world, this is happening.
Yeah. It's just a fact. So anyway, in the evening, this woman, her poor boys, all 7 of them, just wandering around. They come to a small town and the rain is just like pouring down. They have nowhere to sleep. And so she goes up to the burgomaster, who is apparently like a mayor of a town, like whether it's Dutch, German, it's like a lot of European towns, which is funny because I'm remembering the Burgermeister burger.
Yeah.
And it's not the Year Without a Santa Claus. It's from like, it's another one of those claymation Christmas movies.
Yeah, I don't remember which one it is either, but yeah, that's in my brain.
Is it like the story of the Santa Claus, or Santa Claus is coming to town? Maybe is what it's called. But there's like the Burgermeister burger, and he's like the mayor of that German town in the movie. Anyway, it has nothing to do with what we're doing right now, except that it just made me wonder, oh my gosh, it was Burgermeister. He was the Burgo Master.
So Burgermeister Meisterburger is the main antagonist of the Rankin Bass special Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which I'm pretty sure is exactly what you said. Way to go, Katrina. You got it right.
Well, I think it was like one of 3 titles that I said.
It was exactly what you said. You got it right. And you have the power to edit it, so you only said the one thing that was right.
That's true.
Anyway, this Burgomeister was kicking out a poor widow and her 7 sons.
Oh, yeah, no. So
7 young sons.
So it's like she gets to like this small town and the rain is like pouring down. So she goes to this guy and is like, Your Honor, isn't there like some corner of this town that a poor woman and her children can find shelter just from a storm? Like, isn't there some place in this town that could help me out just for the night? And so
he was like, nope, bye.
No, he actually was like, there's an old empty palace up yonder, and a very grand place it is. But of course, the reason why it's empty, but really, really grand and fancy is because like it's hella haunted. Yeah. Like
for sure.
Because he knows that it's like horrible. And so he was like, oh yeah, there's definitely a place where you can light a fire in there. And there's plenty of places for you guys to like get warmed up and sleep. But to tell you the truth, it kind of has a bad reputation and nobody can spend like more than a night there because they die of fright. And the widow, love her, she was like, well, we've got nothing to lose. We might as well die in a palace as well as die in a ditch, which, oof, you got to be in some kind of a bad way to basically be like, do I want to die warm or wet in a ditch? I picked die warm. Like, oh, those are got to be better options, but there were not. So those were
if those are my choices, I'm with you.
Yeah. So the Burgomaster gave them some bread and meat and pointed them in the direction of the palace. So off they went. And when they got there, they were like, oh my gosh, this place is absolutely massive. Like it's even bigger than like we were picturing in our minds. This place is huge. Tapestries were hung on the walls, but they could see that they were like tattered and covered in dust. Gold frame mirrors were cracked. Obviously rats had gotten in and chewed up everything, moths. Like, so this had been a great, beautiful, decadent place at one point. Just the picture of wealth, but now nature had taken it and
turned it into an attraction at Disney World.
Yeah. Grim grinning elves come out to socialize. Even though, this place was kind of rickety, falling apart, it still was much better than a wet ditch. And so they ate that bread and meat that the Burgomaster had given them, and they were actually feeling pretty warmed up because they had started a fire in one of the fireplaces. So they're feeling like warm and full and satisfied for the first time in a long time. And so they were starting to get drowsy and start to nod off to sleep. But then a great wind started roaring and whipping around this palace. What did I say?
No, sorry. Just a great wind. I just thought someone farted.
Yeah. You're like, I'm 5. I thought somebody farted.
A very childish place to take this story.
Yeah, no, absolutely fine.
But in my brain, too, it was like some whiplash because I was like, oh no, they were feeling warm and feeling good and starting to feel drowsy. I was like, they are freezing to death. That's what it feels like to freeze to death.
Yeah.
But then it was like, oh no. So it went from like freezing to death to farting. And it's like, whew.
Yeah, your brain was just a bing bonging all around.
Oh yeah.
All right. So windows were rattling, not from the force of like a fart, but from the wind that was whipping around. So the doors started bang, 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 like opening and slamming, and pots and pans started to like fall out of like the shelves, which it's like, oh, no wonder this place looked like garbage. But also I was thinking like
classic haunted house behavior.
After that happens like one time when like the wind just like knocks all the pots and pans and stuff out of cabinets.
Like who's putting them back up?
Is there like another ghost, like poltergeist, that's just like coming in the next day being like, oh my gosh, this again. Who put this down? Just a tired like mother, just like closing all of the like cabinets and the drawers.
That actually brings up like a really interesting thing where like the whole theory about like haunted houses, it's like, it's not dead people. It's just, again, this goes right down my alley about like time is a flat circle and like free will is an illusion or whatever. But it's just like different inhabitants of that house through time
are just like
are interacting across time with one another. It's not like deceased people.
Yeah.
Even though like in what you perceive to be your moment in time, they are deceased.
Oh, right.
It all actually exists at once, and so you're interacting with each other across time. You know what I mean? It's not like a spirit, it's like a living person at a different time.
Yes, but are there people from the future who are also so you think that some of what people are seeing as like ghosts are actually future entities that
No, I don't. But like because I don't think that people are actually seeing these things.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, it's funny to think that. It's funny to think that because like no one's like, this ghost was wearing like a Mylar suit. Like, you know, it's like they always wear.
Yeah.
You know what? I do think people are seeing people from the future. And we're seeing like, they're wearing old timey clothes. No. Those are futuristic clothes. After freaking World War III knocks us back into like pre-industrial times. And we have to start making our clothes from like hand,
and that's
spun.
what Jeff wholeheartedly believes. And
100%.
I like that. I was like, so do you think that? And you were like, no. You're like, no, in the concept of the theory that I'm talking about, I'm not saying Jeffrey thinks that.
But so what if I did, Katrina?
That's totally fine. I just wanted to make sure that I was following the logic.
That's fair.
That's fine. I just, wanted to know because listen, I talked with a crazy person at a goddess temple one time and I feel totally comfortable saying he was a crazy person. He was saying that there are no dinosaur bones and remains because that would insinuate that there is a past in which like remains of anybody would be in the ground. And he was like, there is no past, there is like only now. And so like people can't be digging up like fossils or like civilizations that were from like thousands of years ago because like the past didn't ever happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't even follow where you're going.
That's the exact opposite what I'm
because you're saying that like
too. I'm saying everything is happening right now.
Yeah, past, present, and future
is always happening at once.
And if I collapse in on a different moment, I'll come in contact with the future of the past.
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
Because of our
You don't think that I can astral project myself into the past or the future?
You know, I'm open to the possibility, but I don't think that. I think that again, like the limitations of our human bodies force us to perceive this illusion of time happening linearly.
Yeah.
And there's nothing we can do to escape that.
Well, but then how are people seeing ghosts if there's no way for you don't believe that they are seeing ghosts? I'm so sorry. I
don't know. We're jumping back and forth a lot between what I
believe and
actually
what
think and what I think other people think, and then what I would believe if I believed what other people thought and believed. But like basically none of this is something that I actually believe.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. No worries.
It's just interesting to think about, Katrina.
Yeah. And so then in this story, after this great wind and there's like all this banging, the wind ceased, and then an earthquake lifted the palace from the ground and bumped it down again. and bounced the widow and the 7 little boys halfway to the ceiling and then threw them back to the floor again, bruised and breathless. Which I'm like, that is horrifying. Like
that's the hauntedest house I've ever heard of.
Like the building lifting up and then dropping back down. What the crap? I've only ever seen that in like the genie in like Aladdin.
So I thought you were going to say Tower of Terror.
Oh, right. No, they don't lift the entire building up. It's just an elevator.
That's true.
Anyway. So then there came an immense silence because seriously, after all of that huge noise, everyone's just trying to catch themselves.
Your ears adapt to the loud noise, and then when it's gone, it's like your ears are still anticipating loudness, so their perception is reduced as well.
Fascinating.
And sensitivity.
We're bringing science into this. So
are we?
Are we? So anyway, after the silence, a voice crying out in agony, "Bring me a light! Bring me a light! Bring me a light!" Said it 3 times, so I decided I would do it as well.
Yeah.
So the widow quickly grabbed it says a burning brand from the hearth. So she like picked up basically like something hot and holding light. I don't know if she means like a red hot poker, or if she means like, like a torch or something. And she gave it to the eldest of her sons. And she was like, okay, go take this to whoever is crying out for light. Have a brave heart. Nothing will harm you. So her son took that burning brand and he went out the kitchen door, and his 6 little brothers got up and they also followed after him because it's so cute. They were like, they didn't want to let him go all alone, which that is something that I feel like we see very little of in folklore and fairy tales. Is there's usually like one person who's kind of like called to be the bravest of the siblings and to like go and like do the thing. But for this one, they were all like, all 7 of them were like, no, we're not going to make him like go and do this alone. And so all 7 of them went in the direction of the voice that was crying for the light. And so they walked following the voice until they were in the great hall. And in the middle of the hall, there was the ghost of a super, super, super entirely old man. Entirely old. You look more like my great aunt. Super duper old man. So old that this ghost's beard was so long it streamed down all the way onto the floor like a cloud. So like, not only is he dead, but he has been growing his beard out the entire time that he's been dead, so that it's just like flowing all over the place. So he's just sitting in this hall with his crazy, insane long beard. And in his lap, he was holding a thick book. And so he saw the boys coming in with the light, and he said again, like, bring me that light. And so they all walked boldly through the hall over to where this like old ghost was. And the ghost said, hold the light steady that I may read. Because of course, what do ghosts want more than anything else? To read books. Me too.
Read a good book.
And if people want to take bets on what the book was, you absolutely can at this point in the story, because I will tell you.
It's the Bible, so that he can cross over.
Why'd you ruin the betting game forever? You were.
I thought I was a participant in this.
Why would you get to participate in the podcast? No, perfect. We'll see. We'll see what happens if I haven't given it away. So the
backup answer, the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah. Ooh. So the eldest of the 7 boys, he stood close behind the ghost chair, and he held the burning brand over the ghost so that the ghost could see the book in his lap. And the ghost opened up the book and he began to read, and he was turning the pages and muttering and mumbling to himself. He read and he read and he read, and the boys all stood by completely silent while this went on. And the burning brand burned like lower and lower and lower. Uh-oh. And the boys were starting to wonder, like, what's going to happen if the brand goes out? And we're all left in this big hall in darkness. And the ghost was slowly turning the pages. And then he got to the last page and he gave a great sigh and he clapped the book shut and stood up smiling, and he said, my little lads, I am the soul of a rich man. And I have to read out this entire thing to you because this story is really driving home the point. I am the soul of the rich man who owned this house. And in my life, though I did some good deeds, yet I did many evil ones. So when I grew old, I repented of the ill I had done and made a vow that before death took me, I would read this holy book from cover to cover. As if, like, if you read that book, it's going to, like, make it so that those evil things, like, never happen. Maybe instead, as you were growing older, you should have repented and been like, I'm going to do everything I can to right the wrongs. It's fine. Listen, I've got thoughts and feelings. But I put off my reading from day to day. We've all been there. And in the end, death seized hold of me before I had so much as read one word. So what I had vowed to do in life and failed to do, I must do after death, for that was the judgment passed upon me in the underworld, whither death had carried me. For 100 years I have come, and for 100 years I have cried and cried for light. For how could I read in darkness? Yeah. It's hard to read when you're a ghost, and it's dark outside.
Yeah.
I have called, and only the whirlwind and the thunder and the earthquake answered me, and those who heard me calling fled in terror. Now you have saved me, my brave little lads. My vow is fulfilled, all is forgiven, and I can go to my rest in the world of worlds. And I'm like, it's forgiven because you just read it's fine.
Here's my question too. Were they staying there while he read the entire
Bible? I'm like, that's a long night.
Yeah, unless that guy is like an insanely fast reader.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That's so funny. Okay.
I love that you're like where you're getting hung up is you're like, who can read the Bible in one night? No wonder those kids were worried about that brand going out before he finished.
Yeah, because like the sun went down and came up and went down and came up and went down and came up, and they're still holding this burning stick silently. Yeah. Because they have to wait until it's night again for the ghosts, because ghosts can only come out at night. We know.
Everybody knows that. They can only come out at night. And that's why it's so dark and it's really hard to read.
Yeah, because like if he could come out during the day, he could have just been reading the book by, the light of day.
Yeah.
But ghosts can't come out during
Of course, obviously.
Only the nighttime. Mm-hmm.
These are facts. Because time can only collapse in on that moment in the evening. Or uncollapse at night.
Something like that.
Anyway, so this ghost tells the boys, because you've done this great thing to help me out, I'm going to do something for you. Go back to your mother in the kitchen, and under the loose flagstone on the hearth, you will find 7 jars of gold. Those jars of gold you can take with my love. Goodbye. Which I just want to say, he kept saying like, oh, I want to fix these evil things that I'd done like while I was alive. And I'm like, well, why weren't you trying to like rectify the situation while you were then still alive?
Yeah.
Because it's like, not only at the time that he died, not only did he have those 7 jars of gold that he probably could have done some good in the world with.
Right.
He also had a big old house full of stuff that he could have sold, given away. Like, not go and live on the street, but live like a more...
Yeah. Like a normal person.
Yeah, like just a modest life.
Let's though take the story at its face value. This guy couldn't even be bothered to do the much easier thing of reading. Like he couldn't be bothered so much that he didn't read a single word of the Bible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Before he died. Yeah. And like he died before he thought he would, but at the same time, like
he was so busy doing evil things that he did not have time to like crack open even a word.
Yeah. So like, yeah, you're right. He could have been doing all of those things, but like he also couldn't even do the easy thing.
Yeah. Let alone do a hard thing.
Yeah. So
anyway, so of course, the ghost, the old man, turned back into mist and floated away through the ceiling, whatever.
And for spending the night in a haunted house, these people get a reward. Yeah. It's like the classic horror movie trope. I love
absolutely. Like, oh, if you can spend one night in the haunted house, you'll be millionaires. So the little boys, they ran to their mother and told her everything that had happened because they've been missing like all night long. And she's like oh, well.
She's like, you know what? I knew it was a mistake to promise that nothing bad would happen to them. Like, I don't know that.
I didn't know that.
And now I feel real bad.
Yeah. Aw.
It's like, oh, you're alive. Thank goodness.
We could have been dead in a ditch, but I sent them to go be dead over there. Oh, well, at least we had a good meal. So anyway, they loosened up, of course, the flagstones, and underneath there were 7 big jars full of gold. So they went from being the poorest of the poor to being the richest folk in all the countryside.
Wow.
And maybe they can spend the rest of their lives doing evil things.
I hope
a
not.
happy ending. Ooh, no.
Oh, fantastic.
Anyway, so that was one of the stories that I kind of randomly came upon because, and I'll be honest, when I was opening up these Ruth Manning Sanders books, I wasn't going by titles. Sometimes that's what I'll do is I'll look at titles and be like, what intrigues me? But instead I go and I look and see what picture they included alongside the story. That's how I got that one story for our mermaid episode from Ireland, where I found that one mermaid picture where I was like, what is happening?
Who goes completely against our expected beauty standards for mermaids.
Yeah.
In an amazing way.
I think on the episode I said she was built like a goldfish. And she, for whatever reason, was hopping. They weren't underwater. So she was, they were underwater.
They were underwater, but she wasn't swimming in water.
Yeah, they were in an air bubble. And so she was hopping.
So she's hopping around.
Anyway, and so that was, I had scrolled through this book just to be like, oh, what story do I want to look at? And the picture is what stopped me, of just an old man in a top hat holding a giant book with hair all over the place, beard. Just
oh yeah, I forgot that detail about how he'd been growing his beard out.
Yeah.
So it's just
and so I looked at that picture and I was like, what the heck happened to this Rip Van Winkle dude?
You had to find out.
Yeah. And so then the story, had this kind of message of, listen, the message was more of kids, remember to read your scriptures, even though what I got out of it was that it's very much a Christmas carol, except a Christmas carol, but it's Bob Marley trying to fix himself instead of helping Scrooge.
Yeah.
And so it was a message of a rich person being punished and tormented for 100 years trying to do penance for being evil all of his life with his money, that being selfish with his money led him to being evil, that to amass that level of wealth, he had to be evil, where he's I did some good things. I did some good things, but it was mostly evil. And so I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because I had earlier in the month also randomly come across a story in a book that I had not packed up, which was because it was on my children's bookshelf instead of on my office bookshelf. And it was Filipino children's favorite stories. This story was called The Hermit and the Two Worms.
So before I read this story, I actually do want to make one more comment on your previous story.
Okay,
which is to say, Katrina, I knew that the chances of this actually happening were very, 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 very slim. But I still was a little disappointed that the punchline to the ghost asking for a light didn't end with a ghost smoking a cigarette.
Bring me a light, bring me a light. Let me hit thy vape pen once
tonight. Anyway, The Hermit and the Two Worms. Long ago, there lived a hermit with a long white beard.
Nice.
Probably not as long as that ghost beard.
But I'm glad we're kind of sticking with some good elements.
And we're getting the opposite side of the coin here, because this man, it explicitly states, was a holy man who spent all his time praying and meditating in the dark cave where he lived. So instead of being a rich, evil man with a wild beard haunting a big old mansion, he's a old man with a long, but by the picture, much better maintained beard, who is holy and living in a cave in poverty. He one morning woke up and left his cave to go gather some fruit in the rainforest when he heard a voice call out, "Watch out!" And he's like, huh? He's looking around, but no one was there. So he went about his business, dropping some fruit in this basket he was carrying around. And then he heard leaves rustling. And he heard voices again that are like, "Stop right there. You're going to step on us." And Horton hears a hoot. It's just coming. We're here. And so the old hermit, not like a heffalump or elephant or whatever Horton is, a human hermit man, squats down and starts looking at the plants in front because he heard like the rustling and heard the voices again. And he starts pushing leaves aside and they're like, we're here, we're under the rock. And so he like looks, picks up this rock, flips it over, and sees beneath it that he very carefully lifted it out were 2 fat wriggling worms. And so the hermit said, hello? Are you stuck under this rock? What's going on? And they're like, no, we're not stuck. The rock's not going to hurt us, but you might hurt us. And the hermit's like, no, I'm not going to hurt you. I'll just step over you and then I'll be on my way. The worm's like, yeah, that's right. You'll be on your way to crush other poor creatures underneath your feet. And the hermit's like, Herman?
And Herman was like, Herman the hermit.
And the hermit was like, what do you, huh? And the worm's like, you are a human, and all humans treat us like we're worthless garbage. You don't respect other living things. You cut down trees. You pollute the environment. You don't care about anything but yourselves. And so the hermit's like, yeah, maybe you're right. It's like humans do have a tendency to destroy nature. You got us there. But then he's like, has an idea. And he turns to the worms. He's like, would you like to do something about that? And the worm's like what? And the hermit's like, well, I could turn you both into humans so that you can live among the humans and then you can teach them how to respect the planet. And so they talked it over, I guess, and like came to some sort of agreement. And the worms agreed to the experiment, which is like just a delightful sentence.
And the worms agreed to the experiment.
And then poof, the worms were turned instantly into a man and a woman. And so this couple of former worms, it's like the opposite of like, would you love me if I were a worm?
That's exactly what I like.
It's like, would you love me even if I were a human? We're about to find out. So they went to go live in a small farming village where they were known as Gino and Anna Flores. As Gina and Anno Flores. I was trying to like...
For a second, I was like, oh no, I forgot to tell people that this was like a Filipino story. But no, I did. And so no, the names make sense in the way that colonialism is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Philippines were a Spanish colony.
Yeah.
Again, wild, random coincidence that it was about Spain.
Yeah.
In the first story.
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't know when I first read this story that it was from the Philippines. So I assumed it was from some...
Oh, that's right. I sent the story to you, no context.
Yeah, but it was... You know, by the illustrations, though, I was like, is this Asia somewhere? But I was like, because like the illustrations kind of like look like a little Asian-ish.
Yeah.
So it's like, I was really confused when it was like rainforest. I was like, that could be Asia, but it's like, it also could be South America, which anyway, but Philippines. I love that the worms got names.
Of course, they need them.
I wonder like who named them? Did the hermit name them? Did like, They're just like,
what's the most human name we can think of? Gino. What were their names?
Yeah, Gino and Anna.
On Anna.
Flores.
Yeah, those are some pretty just basic human names. I have a name, and it's a human name too.
Gino. So it says here, with the money the hermit gave them, which I don't remember it saying that the hermit gave the money. I think it's like telling us at the same time as it's saying this. But with the money the hermit gave them, they bought some land and they built a modest thatched roof house, which I'm like, I said erroneously that the hermit was poor. Like, not if he had enough money to just give away to someone that they could buy land to build a house on. So they bought a house. They also bought several sows, which, as you may or may not know, is a female pig, because this is a what?
Animal husbandry
podcast. And a few chickens.
I did want to say, in terms of like the money, I'm wondering if, because he can magic worms into human beings, if he could also like magic the money. But then at the same time, it does introduce the conundrum: if he has the ability to like magic money, then why can't he magic money for other like poor people in the town?
Yeah.
But maybe because he thinks that money is the root of all evil, and so he doesn't want to bring more evil into the world. I don't know.
Yeah, we could go down a really weird rabbit hole with this. Be like, like inflation, if he could just magic money into the air, he's playing, Federal Reserve, and he just starts, magicking money, then money is worth less.
Yeah, making the compounding like the problem. So let's not go down any rabbit
Yeah,
holes.
we
at this point.
already went too
We've
far
had too many
down
rabbit
that
holes tonight.
Farther down that rabbit hole than I am actually comfortable with. Okay, so they bought some stuff. They bought a house. They bought some cows. They bought some chickens. Nope, not cows. Dang it. Someone's going to give us a 1-star review for getting our animal husbandry wrong. Sows. I was right the first time, though. Which are pigs. Female pigs.
So, a pig, a female pig.
Gino and Anna were once worms. And they worked hard on their farm. And they made many new friends, which was nice.
Gino, the name I gave myself. I'm so sorry. Keep going. I'm so sorry.
Beautiful. I'm so glad that I like paused and my brain was like, had the spinny wheel going of like, I was trying to come up with a clever.
I don't know how like clever mine was because you'd already mentioned like Gino and Anna, they were and then I was like, Gino, a name I call myself. So.
Right. Yeah. No, but you got me there. Cause like after I said a female pig.
Yeah.
A sow, a female pig, like in my brain, like the music started, and I was like, I gotta come up with this, and then you kind of got that train rolling.
Good.
So thank you.
I'm glad.
Gino and Anna worked hard on their farm and made many new friends, which is great because I don't know if you recall, but they were pretty anti-human at the beginning of this story.
Yeah, they were.
So made some friends.
It was kind of their whole thing.
Yeah. But every chance they had, they talked to their friends about the richness and beauty of their former home, the rainforest.
Oh.
And they traveled around to other towns to teach people about treating nature with respect and kindness. I do like, too, their approach of like befriending people and then like telling friends about it rather than like, standing on the corner on a soapbox and just like screaming about how horrible humans are. That would not have been well received.
Yeah, like all of you suck.
But after some time, the couple's farm started to take more of their time, more of their energy. They had less and less time to go travel around and talk to people. And the more they worked, the more money they made. So soon, Gino and Anna forgot all about their lessons to humankind about the environment. And after only 10 years as human beings leaving their home, their former home, the rainforest, became just a distant, fading memory in their minds.
No.
And you know what, Katrina? Gino and Anna, eventually they became the richest couple in the entire village.
Oh, no.
And you know what they did? They decided to cut down the trees on their land and use those trees to build a lavish mansion. And they had like big dinner parties for all of their friends, their human friends, the scum of the earth human beings.
Oh, jeez. How the mighty have fallen. And by the mighty, I mean the very small worms.
And their first night in this new house, they invited 100 guests for a garden party. And during the party, one of the servants came up to Anna and was like, hey, I don't want to like put it down on your party, but there's a beggar at the gate.
Gross.
I asked him to leave, but he said that he's not leaving unless he talks to you or your husband. And Anna's like, okay, well, let him wait. He'll get tired and he'll go away.
Yeah.
It's not
gross.
a problem.
Yeah.
That's why we have a gate, to keep riffraff like him out of our parties. And the servant's like, yes, ma'am, and takes off. So hours later, Anna's saying goodbye to one of the guests, and she noticed that the beggar is still waiting there at the gate. But instead of going up to talk to him, she's like, I'm going to go talk to my husband. No. And she goes up to her husband, and she says, Gino. Well, actually, she whispered it. Gino, she whispered, so that her guests couldn't hear because she didn't want to disturb them.
No.
There's a beggar outside, and he won't go away. What should I do? And do you know what Gino says?
Light him up.
Send the dogs after him. Not only are they being cruel to the environment and animals, they're about to be cruel to humans as well by sending the dogs after him. So then, just as he was about to go back to the party, him being Gino, a big bolt of lightning flashed across the sky and it began to pour rain. And so all of the party guests, because this was a garden party, ran inside the house. But as they're running inside the house, poof, suddenly the entire house and everything inside of it disappears. And so the guests cried out, "Oh no!" and ran out into the street. Which is what I would say if I ran into a house that suddenly disappeared from around me.
For a second, I thought it was going to be like in like Dungeon Crawler Carl, where like the house collapses and it crushed everybody in them. But no, or like it disappeared and like they all got
I was about
obliterated.
to be like spoilers, but I actually have read like 2 chapters of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and that like does like happen like on the first page.
Yeah, I was like, it's not spoilers, it's literally the like
the setup for the
like
series.
dust jacket.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, luckily it wasn't like that. It just disappeared around them, and they weren't thrust into, you know, an RPG.
Dungeon crawl situation.
This is like a reverse dungeon crawl, because like they kind of were thrust into this other world above the ground.
Yeah. And the
humans.
hermit was the final boss.
Yeah, and he's about to lay the smackdown. So like within a matter of seconds, lightning strikes, it starts pouring rain, their house disappears, and Gino and Anna find themselves just standing in a patch of land with weeds all around them. And Gino looking around, and he's kind of making a guess at what might have happened. He's like, Anna, do you think? And then the beggar appears. That's right, said the old beggar as he hobbled toward them in the rain. I am the hermit that turned you into humans 10 years ago. And Anna immediately knelt before the beggar. She said, please, please, please don't take everything away from us. We worked so hard.
We really like all of our things.
And the hermit said, interrupting her, you, the very creatures that were angered by humans who did not respect the world around them. He raised a finger and shook it shamingly at the couple. Shamingly was my word, because I don't think that's a word. I don't want to put that on the person that wrote this down, because, you know.
Shame, I know your
They
name.
wrote it much better than I said it. So he's shaking his finger at the couple. He's like, you've flattened all the trees around you. You've kept your dogs in chains, and you've forgotten why you came here in the first place. So now I must send you back. Poof. In that instant, Anna and Gino were transformed back into 2 fat, wriggling worms. Which begs the question, Anna, would you still love me if I were a worm? And we don't get to find out.
Yep.
Because that's the end of the story.
What I loved about that story was that, one, it didn't go where I thought that it was going to go.
No, absolutely
like at all. Because it was like a story. Like at first, when they were like, oh, let me talk to people about like how much I love the world around me, how much I love the rainforest. And people are like, oh yeah, it is so beautiful. It is important. We do need to like maintain, this is like great. But then the story turns into the idea that money and wealth will corrupt you, that they are corrupting influences, that like you might start off with really good intent and really good kind of like high ideas about yourself and like your moral standing. And you think like, if I had the opportunity to do this, I would do it the right way. And it makes you question like, is that actually possible, or will I be as easily corrupted? It's like the One Ring of Power. Like everybody thinks I can carry the ring to Mordor, but it's like, but you can't, because of the very nature of what the thing is. And it's not saying anything necessarily against you. It's just an observation of humanity that like, when you have money and you get accustomed to a certain lifestyle, you start making choices that are in your better interest, but not necessarily in the better interest of other people. And you start justifying it to yourself, because you can justify anything to yourself to maintain your comfort and happiness.
Yeah.
Because right now in my head, I'm like, I don't think that I would be.
Yeah, but not me.
Obviously not me. Obviously not me. If, you know, if I was a billionaire, I'd be an ethical billionaire.
It is really interesting though, because it's like you said, it turns into a lesson about money and the corrupting influence of money. Yeah. And it's kind of like but sort of the message also seems to be, which I don't think it isn't really, but it's like, because it's worms, like being turned into humans, it's kind of like teaching a lesson of like, yeah, humans suck, but like you would also suck if you were a human. So like, no, humans just suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Which I mean, but in the story, it becomes like very much like because of money and stuff like that. It's like if they didn't become rich, which is kind of interesting. I mean, it does tie into the thing that they were mad about, which is like the destruction of nature and stuff like that. Like not caring about other creatures around you, which is like the fact that they were trying to like grow their farm even more and like build this huge mansion is like what led them to like destroying nature.
Yeah.
It's like, again, the way that those things go hand in hand, like in their pursuit of like wealth and a better lifestyle, they sacrifice the nature that they claim to have loved so much. But it was just also just so interesting that the whole thing is a lesson to worms.
Yeah.
You know, like normally it's like, oh, like you're a human being, like go live your life as a worm and then you'll learn, you know, like how to be a better human by being forced to be a worm. But it's like, no, these worms are like being taught to not be so judgy by being humans and then getting turned back to worms.
So in a previous episode, back when we were doing the 1001 Nights series, we told a story, and I think about this story a lot, way more than I would think for like just like a one-off episode. And like it was an episode that was about like animal stories or like stories that included different like types of animals. And one of the stories, and it's a very short story, but it's like about a hermit who makes like a vow that he doesn't want to cause anybody suffering at all anymore. He like does not at all want to be a participant in anyone's suffering, including any animals or whatever. And so he takes himself out into the middle of nowhere, the wilderness, you know, gives up everything, life of austerity, like going to go live in a cave. And like on his way out there, he gets some water from a puddle. Like the water had accumulated in like basically like a crack in a rock, like a little bowl. But anyway, but he scoops out the water and he's drinking it like out of this little hole. And these birds fly over and he can hear their speech and like what they're saying. And they were like, oh my gosh, this guy came out into our forest and drank out of our stream. Now we have no water and we're probably going to die because this old guy came out here and drank up our water. And he realized in that moment that basically like to live in the world is to take resources, and you don't necessarily have control over like the resources that you take up all of the time, that like you need resources. And sometimes like in that instance where there was like a scarcity, him taking up that resource meant that others went without. And he can just die so that those birds could keep using that water and live. But then he would be dying and he would be making basically a value judgment that like the birds' lives were worth more than his life. But how can he make like that value judgment? Because maybe his life is more valuable than those birds. But there's really like, there's kind of like no way of knowing. And I mean, listen, that's a huge philosophical debate. And I'm in no way saying that I've covered the breadth of it. But this story made me think of that where it started off, he didn't want to step on these. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He's a holy hermit.
Yeah. He's a vegetarian even. He's eating fruit, gathering fruit that has already fallen to the ground.
Yeah. And so he's like trying to like participate in like only using resources that like the tree isn't even using anymore, that like it's ready to bear its seeds or whatever through him. Yeah. And he hears these worms and they're like, don't step on me. Like, I just don't want to be crushed underfoot. But to walk anywhere in the forest could potentially lead to you crushing something without knowing it, like taking a resource without knowing who that resource could have gone to eventually. And so like he's in the middle of trying to make an effort as a human being to give up everything.
Yeah, he's living in a cave, eating fruit that has fallen to the ground.
And these worms are still completely unsatisfied with and assume that they would do better. And the thing is like this hermit is a human being and he has not been able to enact change in the village, in the world
and he's got magical powers.
But he hasn't been able to be like a change maker in that community to do what, even like to influence other people to do what he's doing, let alone to preach and convince the people that like the worms of like what the worms are trying to say, which is like, quit destroying our forest. He hasn't had the power to do that, even though he's given up all these like worldly things. And so he, by giving them money, is also kind of acknowledging the fact that to give up everything and to be poor also makes you powerless in some ways to enact that level of change. And so it's almost saying like you need a certain amount of money to move in the world in a way that you can enact change. You need a certain amount of privilege to enact change and convince other people and like move the needle anywhere. But at what point is there a tipping point where like now you're doing more harm than you are good? And like, when do you know that you are? So it's a very complicated children's story.
For sure. Yeah, it is really interesting. Yeah, I really liked it because again, it went a different direction than I expected completely. And I think what you're talking about, the story does kind of like, it doesn't explicitly draw that line by like having the hermit say like, this is where you went wrong or whatever. But they were doing pretty good at first. They were farming, you know, and it's like by being able to farm and like whatever, raise animals. I mean, they were probably, if they're selling any of these animals or eating any of these animals, I don't know. It didn't actually say that, but like they'd be harming these animals a little bit, which we already know that the animals are like sentient to the same level as human beings because these worms were. Let's ignore that. Sorry, I'm going off on a really dumb tangent. But like, so they were farming. They had enough like free time and money to go around and be able to talk to people and make friends, and to then also be able to tell people about like the environment is great. It's like the place where they went wrong was when it stopped being about, you know, like the farm, which could provide food for other people, which is like a good thing to help like them not be suffering. You provide resources for these people that they may not have been able to have access to in another way, which, and like making money for yourself, which is not, I think even the story is saying it's like, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
But then when they were, what was the last thing that they did? They tore down the trees just so they could build a big house to live in. They didn't need a big house. They could have kept, they lived in a little thatched house, you know, like they could have made that as nice as possible. There was just the two of them, you know, like maybe they need a little more space, build a little addition onto it. You know what I mean? It's like, but they like leveled a bunch of trees just to build a bigger house when they already had a house. They had a farm that was like producing things. It's like, and they didn't have it to grow things. Like maybe you could argue, oh, they threw a party for their friends. So it's like, that's helping bring like joy to these people's lives. But it was kind of like, you know, when it stopped being, I mean, even then it's not super clear, but it's kind of like, you know, when it just started being about more show of wealth, like by building a big mansion, having a place where you could invite people for a party to show like, look at how wealthy we are, you know? And it's like to the point where they were, before then again, it's like they stopped having time because they were focusing so much on like the making money aspect of it that they were not able to do things. Like, so if you get to the point where you can have a farm that provides things to people that people need, then that's really great. And you have enough money that you can take free time to go and travel around and then tell people about the important things in the environment. You know, it's like, you can't get to that point, like you said, without some level of financial resources that would allow you to do that and not be like living every day having to pick fruit off of the ground that's already fallen to a tree in order to survive, you know? So it's kind of interesting. And there is like a lot that we can learn from the experience of these two humble, fat, wriggling worms beneath a rock.
I love that we pulled out so much like philosophy about literally. So this book, again, it's from Filipino children's favorite stories. There's a lot of really great stories in there, but I mean, like that one, it is so interesting. I love it when I'm reading stories from like a different culture, and I think that I know where a story is going because I've read so many different stories. So I love it when I'm like reading one and I'm like, I don't know where we're going. Yeah.
And especially like children's stories, it's like, you know, really hard for them to not a lot of times be just very predictable. Yeah. If the types of stories that we are coming in contact with usually. So it's like why it is super refreshing to be able to like read a story like this and be like, oh wow, that was a delightful twist that I absolutely loved.
And then proceed to try to like pull a ton of philosophy, I guess, because my brain just was thinking about like there are no ethical billionaires, like there's no, you know, like and like other statements that are in the zeitgeist right now, that's things that people are talking about, like CEOs, are they inherently evil? Do you have to be a certain level of maniacal, egotistical maniac to reach a level like that? It's a complicated question, or you can make it uncomplicated by just being like, yeah. It is a complicated like question, especially
like, to be fair, you could make any complicated question a lot simpler by being just yeah or no arbitrarily.
Also, I do want to say that like Jeffrey Bezos, he did start off by being kind of like a worm, a lowly worm. And he became a billionaire. But looking at him, he might be slowly turning back into Whew, that was just a rude thing to say based on somebody's looks, and it doesn't go into the merits of the man, which I'll leave there. I was just going to say also, so Filipino children's favorite stories retold by Liana Romulo. So if people are interested in looking that book up, I love it when I can find books that are like from one culture retold by somebody also like from that culture. But now I'm going to quickly retell one more story that I absolutely delight in, because this story features the devil, or a devil, in terms of like, it's not Satan, but it is a devil. So this next story, it's going to be from A Book of Devils and Demons, again by Ruth Manning Sanders, and you can find it on archive.org, and you can enjoy all of the different stories that she's collected. This story I'm going to be reading, this is the first story in this book, which perfect. That way I didn't have to read too deeply into it. I could be nice and lazy like I needed to be during the month of July, when I just needed to not be stressed out of my mind. But this story is a Danish story, and it is called Tribble Travel. So there once was a merry little devil. My favorite. And he decided that he was going to change himself into a big black pot with 3 legs and sit himself by the side of the road. And I love that it's like, this is lowercase devil, where it's like not the devil, it's not Satan. Yeah. It's a little demon, a little tricksterly character type devil.
Living the life that every devil aspires to.
Yeah, just wanting to torment somebody.
Being a 3-legged pot on the side of the road.
A little 3-legged pot troublemaker. So, by and by, a poor man came walking down the road. And that man was looking for work, and he hadn't been able to find any, but he saw the pot on the side of the road, and he was like, well, you know what? That's something. That's not nothing. You know, finding a little something by the side of the road that's like, hey, I can use that. Listen, as somebody who I will drive down the road, and if there's somebody who's like left out like a piece of furniture, I don't know if this is everywhere in the United States, but most of the places that I've lived in the United States, everybody knows that if you put something not in a trash can, but next to the trash can, or like next to the side of the road, and it's like a piece of furniture or a bicycle or a piece of equipment, what the person who left it there is saying is, I'm going to trash this item, but if somebody drives past this item and sees it before it gets trashed, take it.
Yeah.
And I personally am a person that when I see that, I will take a look. I've gotten like bar stools. Some of my favorite pieces of furniture I have found next to dumpsters or on the side of the road by somebody leaving it out there. And I'm not ashamed.
One woman's trash is another woman's treasure.
But anyway, back to the story. So
yeah, I completely forgot what we're even talking about right now. Oh, a pot. The only thing that has happened is this devil decided to become a 3-legged pot, and someone has found him.
And I already went far afield. Welcome back to podcasting together. It's been beautiful. Anyway, so I'm right there with this man being like, oh man, what do I, well, here's a pot sitting on the side of the road. Well, that's something anyway. I've totally been there where I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm having a horrible day. Oh, is that an end table? I need that. I needed another bookshelf put in the back. Anyway, so he picks up that pot and he carries it home to his wife. And she's like, hey, how'd your day go? Were you able to find any work or like anything? And he's like, no, I wasn't. I went over to this one rich guy's big house to see if like he had any work that needed to be done like for him that I could like do for him. But he set the dogs on me, just like those worms set the dogs on that. Oh my gosh. And this woman, she was like, oh my gosh, that wicked wretch. Love her. And he's like, but you know what? On the way home, I found this pot. And so, you know, I grabbed this and I brought it home. And she was like, ugh. Okay, a pot, but nothing to put in it. He's like, well, you know what? Maybe there'll be something to put in it someday, you know? And so he set the pot on the shelf. And then he went out to look for work again.
It's an invitation to the universe to fill that pot with his needs.
Yeah, we should all get pot. We should all get pots and wait for them to be filled. No, he didn't just wait for it to be filled. He did. He went out and was like, I'm going to go find work.
The universe helps those that help themselves, you know.
The devil helps those who help themselves.
Apparently.
Yeah, that's what I always say. So anyway, he went to go find more work and the wife started to tidy up the kitchen. So she was apparently clattering about with her broom and the pot perked up and spoke and said, now I triple trapple off. She turned and looked to the pot and she's like, where will you triple trapple off to? And he said, to the house of the rich man who sets his dog on the poor. And the pot jumped off the shelf and away it went, triple traveling on its 3 iron legs. And it went all the way to the rich man's house. I love that this woman was just like, oh, what did you say, pot? You're going to go triple traveling up? Now, where would you go? She's like, well, pots come and they go. Who cares? So it triple traveled into the kitchen and the cook in this grand house saw the pot and was like, oh, now here's a good pot for me to make porridge in. And so she picked up the pot and started to make the porridge in it. And when the porridge was good and well cooked, the pot said, now I triple travel off again. And the cook was like, what? A talking pot? Where will you triple travel off to? And the pot was like, to the poor man's house with the porridge. And it went off down the lane full of porridge, carrying it down. So the poor man, he was, coming home again, still just so sad because he hadn't been able to find any work. And when he got home, his wife was crying because he wasn't able to find any work. They were desperately poor, and she just lost the pot that her husband had just found. So it was like, even though she hadn't been that thrilled about it, still to have that one thing just be like, I'm gonna triple that off. So she was crying. And right when the poor man was finding his wife crying, she looks up and sees behind him this pot full of porridge just whittle-wabbling, waddling down the lane towards her. And so she stopped crying and started laughing. And so the man and his wife ate the porridge. The man cleaned out the pot, which I'm sure is not a kink for that devil. Or put it on the shelf. They ate out that devil and shined it up real good. So put it back on the shelf and they went out of the kitchen. So all quiet in the kitchen for a while. And then the pot says, now I triple travel off. And the wife, hearing the pot, was like, what? Where will you triple travel this time? And the pot was like, back to the rich man's house. And it left. And so it went back to the rich man's great house and into the dairy it went. And there was a dairy maid who was sitting there churning butter. And she was like, oh, good. Here's a good pot for me to put this butter in. And so she filled the pot up with butter. And when it was full to the brim with butter, the pot said, now I triple travel off. And the dairy maid was like, wait, what? Where are you going to triple travel off to? And he's like, to the poor man with the butter. And then out the door it went, back down the lane to the poor man's kitchen. So the poor man hadn't come home again. This time he was, off looking for work. And she came into the kitchen to grab some, or to pull her bread that was baking out of the oven. And she saw this pot full of butter coming down the lane towards her, and she danced with joy and said, some will eat and the rest will sell. And she took the butter out of the pot and she washed up the pot, put it on the shelf, and I guess went to go sell the butter. And so the pot, sat on the shelf for a while and was like, you know what? I'm bored. Now I triple travel off again. So it goes back to the rich man's house and, back up the lane on its 3 iron legs, and it comes to the rich man's house. And it goes into the pantry where the butler was washing the silver. And the butler, looks over and he's like, oh, good. Here's a fine pot that I can wash the silver spoons in. So he puts all the silver spoons into the pot. And when all the silver had gone in the pot said, no, I triple trouble off again. And the butler's like, wait, what? No, you cannot do that. You mustn't do that. And he lunged to go grab at the pot, which I feel like is, the other people who were just like watching it, like hearing this pot be like, I triple trouble off. And then being like, you what? And then just watch it run off. But no, this butler was like, oh no, no. And lunges at it, tries to snatch at it. And so the pot triple tramples on his feet. And so the butler falls down, bruises his head, and before he can get himself back up again, the pot has already triple traveled off down the lane. And he goes into the poor man's kitchen where the poor man and his wife are sitting, spreading butter out on their bread. And they look over and they see this pot full of silver spoons. So they, clap their hands, take out the spoons, and count all of that silver and clean up the pot and put it back on the shelf. And the story says the pot was tired. So it had a little snooze because, of course, it had had a really long day.
It's a long triple travel for a little pot
with just 3 little legs. That's rough. It's a no-legged pot.
That pot only has one leg.
For those who don't know, that's a little joke about one of my dogs. He's got 3 legs, and we keep accidentally saying that he's a one-legged dog. And we're not the only people who. Lots of people keep accidentally doing it, which I think is funny because when I did it, I'm just like, oh, my brain is troubled. But then when I hear like other people accidentally.
Yeah, I've done it.
What's funny, one of my friends recently called him a no-legged dog. I was like, that's too far. He's either a 3-legged dog or one-legged dog. He can't be a no-legged dog.
It would be really obvious if he were a no-legged dog.
Yeah, but we would still love him. He'd just be better at rollover. Which he can only, speaking of, he can only roll over kind of like, or he prefers to only
in one direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably easier.
And he also prefers to only walk on like one side of me, like when we're walking, because he doesn't tend to hop in it. Like, so his back leg, of course, like is like hopping, but it tends to hop him kind of like he veers, and he prefers, or I prefer him on the side of me that veers, not in front of me when we're walking. Because I don't want him to like be hopping and slowly getting in front of me, and then I trip him and kick a 3-legged dog.
Yeah.
I prefer not to kick any dogs, but definitely not a one-legged dog.
I'm glad you said any dog.
Yeah, I don't want to kick any dogs. Anyway, back to this 3-legged pot. It decided to take a nap. And so I love that it, like in this story, they just like include that it needed to take a nap, as if they were like, it went on 3 different trips like, there and back again.
It would be unrealistic. We know that like your suspension of disbelief would be completely shot if this pot like did not have to take a nap after all of this. Because
after stealing all of that stuff, porridge, butter, and silver spoons, like obviously he needs to take a nap. And so he did. He took a little nap. It said he had a little snooze. Then he woke with a jerk and said, now I triple travel off again. And the poor man was like, wait, where are you triple traveling this time? And he's like, I'm triple traveling back to the rich man's house. And off it went. And it triple traveled into a room where the rich man was busy counting his money. And the rich man said, here's a fine pot to put my gold in. And he filled the pot brim full with gold coins. Now I triple travel off, said the pot. And off it went out of the rich man's house and along the road. But the rich man started running after it. But could he catch it? No, he could not. And the faster he ran, the faster the pot went on its 3 iron legs. Triple, 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 triple. I'm just like imagining it like doing it in like kind of like a circle. I don't know why. I don't know how a 3-legged pot would move. That's just in my mind. It's like in like kind of a circular pattern. It's fine.
Like,
yeah.
I imagine it kind of like trotting along with 2 legs walking normally and 1 back leg just
like
hopping.
My dog.
Just kidding. I picture it kind of like walking as if it had 4 legs, but with only 3 legs. I don't know how that makes sense, but it's like, the pot's not made in a way that it's like symmetrical like that. So it can manage it.
So you're kind of imagining that the feet themselves, the iron legs have some kind of moving ability that they're moving forward. See, because I'm feeling like
I get what you're saying. I like your way better.
The motion is coming from more of like it leaning itself in kind of like a rotating.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. I was thinking you were picturing it like rolling along like the 3 points, and maybe that's wrong, but I do kind of like it's like just shifting its weight like back and forth, like and then like slowly kind of pivoting.
Triple. Like
it's such a shame that this is not a video podcast because we're both like making little 3-legged
hand gestures with each other
and showing it how we're doing it. Please send videos to us of you making your own 3-legged hand gesture to indicate how you think this 3-legged pot would triple travel to and fro to rob the rich and give to the po.
Oh, anyway, so yeah, it's like the faster that the rich man ran, the faster this little pot devil was triple traveling. And so they went, the rich man running and the pot triple traveling till the rich man hadn't a breath left in him and sank down on the grass by the roadside. And by the time he'd caught his breath, the pot had vanished. And so the pot went into the house of the poor man's kitchen, and the poor man had been out and had sold the silver spoons for a big hamper of food. I feel like he could have gotten more with all those silver spoons than just one hamper of food. Maybe he could. Maybe he had change. Anyway, he looks up and he sees this pot full of gold coins. He's like, oh, look, our pot came back. And the wife was like, what did you bring us this time? And they looked in the pot and saw that it was full of gold pieces. And didn't they hop and skip and jump for joy? Now we're rich, they said. And they took out the gold and hid it under a stone by their hearth. And they put the pot back on the shelf. The pot stood on the shelf for a long, long time. It was thinking. Love that. This little demon. And then it hops off of the shelf and it says, now I triple travel off. And the man said, oh, no need to do that, pot. We've got everything we want. Like we're fine actually now. We've got plenty of the like silver spoons. We got pot full of gold coins. We're fine. But the pot said, all the same, I triple travel. And the wife was like, but where are you going to triple travel off to? And the pot was like, I'm going back to the grand house of the rich man.
Rich man.
Yeah. Who set his dogs on the poor. And so he went back. I love that the devil's like, I wasn't doing this to make you guys comfortable. That's not what motivates me. Tormenting this rich man actually is like what motivates me. And so the pot finds the rich man sitting by his fishing pond catching carp. And he had already caught a great many carp and they were just lying on the bank, and along came the pot, and the rich man saw it and was like, oh no, that wretched pot again. Well, I'll get even with it this time. And so he called out, here's a fine pot to carry my fish home in. And he stooped over the pot and pretended as if he was going to fill it up with fish, but instead he started filling up the pot with mud. And did that make the pot angry. And it began to swell and it began to grow, and it grew wider and wider and higher and higher. And as the fat man was leaning over it, he lifted high off his feet and he hung clinging to the rim of the pot with both hands. Help, help, cried the rich man. Good. So this man's, what an idiot, hanging on the edge of this pot, the pot that's like full of mud, screaming for help. And the pot gave a jerk, and then down the rich man's head went into the pot. Down go his arms, his body, his legs, sinking all the way down. And kick those legs as they will, the pot swelled up around them so that the rich man, head down inside the pot, buried in mud. And the pot said, now I triple travel. And the rich man's voice could be heard mumbling from inside of this like mud pot. Where will you triple travel to? And the pot said, to hell. And it triple traveled off, and neither rich man nor pot was ever seen again.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
To hell. Oh my funny. Gosh. So I just love that I kept, because I didn't know what these stories were beforehand. I hadn't read them before. I was just reading. Accidental theming, like finding all of these. And I was like, ooh, it must be a sign. A sign of what? A sign from who? I don't know. Maybe it was a sign given to me by future me time collapsing in on itself.
Yeah, definitely.
It's that one. But no, finding all of these like different stories, I was just like, wow. Because normally when I'm coming up with like an idea for a podcast, I'm trying to like lump stories together that have something in common, but it's usually to point out like similar motifs, similar tale types, how different cultures handle the same types of stories, like things like that. And this one, they all kind of just accidentally formed a podcast episode for me. And so I was like, you know what? I don't mind that at all.
It was a delight.
Yeah, I hope this podcast episode was a silly, slappy, good time for all of you listening, as it was for me, for sure. Hopefully you as well, Jeffrey.
Yes, I enjoyed it immensely.
And hopefully now that I'm halfway moved into my new place, I'm moved in enough to my new place that I can record, even if I'm not recording from inside of an office. But hopefully, now that we have the ability to record, because I found all of the pieces and parts and components to form a full computer with microphone and headphone. Now that all of these parts and components are put together, hopefully we'll be able to kind of get back to more regularly scheduled programming.
And with that, I have to be tribble-traveling off. Goodbye.
To hell.
Perfect. No notes.
Thank you for listening to The Fairy Tellers. If you enjoy what we're doing, please leave us a review or share us with your friends. For access to exclusive bonus content, consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/thefairytellers. Special thanks to Andy Forey for our music and to Clarice Inch for our artwork. And of course, a big thank you to all our patrons. Without all of you, this show wouldn't be possible.
Good stories pay little attention to cultural or linguistic frontiers. The student of story collections find themselves adrift on an ocean of stories, an ocean which is boundless, deep, and ceaseless in motion. Robert Irwin.
You manifested it.
I manifested that ugly chair.